In a quiet suburb of Denver, Colorado, David Larson decided to get a service dog for his 12-year-old son, Ethan, who had been paralyzed from the waist down after a car accident. Hoping to bring some joy and independence to Ethan's life, David never anticipated the extraordinary act the dog would perform just weeks after arriving, an act so profound it left the family in tears and transformed their lives in ways they never imagined. David Larson was a 38-year-old single father who worked long hours as a mechanic at a local auto shop. He'd been raising Ethan alone since his wife, Emily, passed away from cancer when Ethan was 3. Ethan was a bright, inquisitive boy who loved building model rockets and playing video games with his friends. But 2 years ago, a devastating car accident changed everything. A drunk driver ran a red light, crashing into David's pickup truck, leaving Ethan with a spinal cord injury that took away his ability to walk. David escaped with minor injuries, but the guilt of not protecting his son haunted him. Ethan's life shifted overnight. He went from running around with friends to navigating the world in a wheelchair. Physical therapy helped him regain some upper body strength, but the emotional toll was heavier. Ethan grew quiet, his once sparkling enthusiasm dulled by frustration and depression. He stopped talking about rockets and spent hours staring out the window, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share. David tried everything: counseling, adaptive sports, even a new gaming console, but nothing seemed to reach Ethan. One evening, while scrolling online, David stumbled across an article about service dogs trained to assist people with mobility challenges. The stories of kids regaining confidence with their dogs struck a chord. David researched organizations, learning about the costs and training involved. Service dogs weren't cheap, often costing tens of thousands, but he found Paws for Freedom, a Colorado-based nonprofit that provided dogs to children with disabilities at reduced rates, supported by grants and donations. David applied, saving every extra dollar from his paycheck to cover the remaining fees. After months of waiting, Paws for Freedom called with good news. They'd matched Ethan with a 2-year-old golden retriever named Cooper, trained to perform tasks like retrieving dropped items, opening doors, and providing emotional support. David was thrilled but cautious. Ethan hadn't shown interest in much lately, and David worried he might reject the idea of a dog. Still, he sat Ethan down and explained the plan. "His name's Cooper," David said. "He's trained to help you with stuff, like picking things up or getting around. I think he could be a good friend." Ethan shrugged, his eyes on his lap. "I don't need a dog," he said. "I'm fine." David didn't push. "Just meet him," he said. "If you don't like him, we'll figure something else out." Cooper arrived on a crisp Saturday morning in April. Lisa Moreno, a trainer from Paws for Freedom, brought him to the Larson home. Ethan stayed in his room at first, reluctant to come out. David greeted Lisa and Cooper, immediately taken by the dog's calm demeanor and soulful brown eyes. Cooper sat patiently, his tail wagging gently, as Lisa explained his training. "He's been with us for a year," Lisa said. "He's great with kids and has a knack for sensing when someone's upset. Ethan can teach him new commands, too, if he wants." David called Ethan, who wheeled into the living room slowly, his expression guarded. Cooper perked up, tilting his head as he watched Ethan. Lisa showed Ethan how to give basic commands. "Try asking him to fetch," she said, handing Ethan a small toy. Ethan hesitated, then said, "Cooper, fetch." Cooper bounded over, grabbed the toy, and dropped it in Ethan's lap. Ethan's lips twitched, almost a smile. "He's fast," he said. Lisa spent the day teaching Ethan and David how to work with Cooper. She showed Ethan how to use commands like open for doors and pick up for dropped items. Cooper could also brace himself to help Ethan shift positions in his chair. By afternoon, Ethan was practicing having Cooper retrieve his water bottle from the table. When Cooper nailed it, Ethan patted his head. "Good boy," he said, his voice softer than David had heard in months. Lisa left that evening, promising weekly check-ins. David felt a flicker of hope. Ethan wasn't fully on board yet, but he hadn't pushed Cooper away. Over the next week, Cooper settled into the Larson home, following Ethan everywhere. Ethan started relying on him for small tasks, grabbing his phone, pulling socks from a low drawer. Cooper's presence seemed to ease Ethan's tension, though he still had days when he shut down, refusing to talk. David noticed Cooper's intuition. The dog slept by Ethan's bed every night, his head near the wheelchair. When Ethan got frustrated with math homework, Cooper would rest his chin on Ethan's knee, prompting a reluctant laugh. David began to see glimmers of the old Ethan, the boy who'd spend hours explaining constellations or debating superhero movies. 3 weeks after Cooper arrived, an unexpected moment changed everything. It was a Wednesday evening, and David was in the kitchen making spaghetti, Ethan's favorite. Ethan was in the living room, working on a science project, a model solar system for school. He'd been excited about it at first, but his hands were shaking from fatigue, a side effect of his pain medication. A small plastic Jupiter slipped from his fingers, rolling under the couch. Ethan groaned, his frustration boiling over.
"This is so dumb," he said.
He tried to maneuver his wheelchair to reach under the couch, but couldn't get close enough. David heard the muttering and started to walk over, but Cooper was already moving. Without a command, Cooper dropped to his belly and scooted under the couch, nudging the plastic planet out with his nose. Ethan stared, surprised. "Thanks, Coop," he said, picking it up. But Cooper didn't walk away. He stayed by Ethan's side, watching as he struggled to glue the planet to the model. When Ethan dropped a glue stick, Cooper retrieved it instantly. David paused in the kitchen, watching quietly. Ethan's hands shook again, and he slammed the model down, his voice cracking. "I can't do this," he said. "I can't do anything anymore. I'm just broken." The words hit David like a punch. He started to move toward Ethan, but Cooper acted first. The dog placed his head on Ethan's lap, looking up with steady eyes. Then, in a move Lisa later said wasn't part of his training, Cooper gently took Ethan's hand in his mouth, not biting, just holding it, and tugged it toward the model, as if saying, "Keep going." Ethan froze, his anger fading. He looked at Cooper, then at his hand, and his eyes filled with tears. David reached them, kneeling beside Ethan's chair. "You okay, buddy?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Ethan nodded, tears spilling over. "He's helping me," he said. "He doesn't think I'm broken." David's throat tightened, his own eyes welling up. "You're not broken," he said. "You're the toughest person I know. And Cooper sees it, just like I do." Ethan wrapped his arms around Cooper, burying his face in the dog's fur. Cooper stayed still, his tail wagging softly. David hugged them both, tears streaming down his face. They sat there, the three of them, crying and laughing, a weight lifting from their shoulders. For the first time since the accident, Ethan didn't feel alone in his struggle, and David felt a hope he'd almost forgotten. That moment marked a shift. Ethan started talking more, sharing his fears about school and his frustration with his body. Cooper became his constant shadow, not just a helper but a confidant. Ethan taught Cooper new tricks, like carrying his backpack or fetching his favorite hoodie. The two developed a bond that amazed David. Cooper seemed to sense Ethan's bad days, nudging him gently or lying close until Ethan smiled again. David noticed changes at school, too. Ethan had been withdrawn since returning after the accident, but Cooper's presence drew him out. Franklin Middle School allowed Cooper to attend classes, and Ethan's classmates were fascinated. They asked questions about Cooper's training, and Ethan answered with growing confidence. His science teacher, Ms. Carter, noticed he was participating more, raising his hand in class for the first time in months. Dr. Rachel Kim, Ethan's physical therapist, saw improvements, too. "He's more engaged," she told David during a session. Having Cooper gives him a reason to push himself. Ethan started practicing transfers from his chair to a mat, with Cooper bracing to steady him. The small victories built Ethan's strength, both physically and emotionally. Word of Cooper's impact spread through their community. A neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, stopped by with cookies, saying she'd seen Ethan and Cooper playing in the yard. "That dog's a blessing," she said. David agreed, grateful for every smile Cooper brought to Ethan's face. A month after the solar system incident, Ms. Carter asked Ethan to present his project to the class. Ethan was nervous. He hadn't spoken in front of others since the accident. David helped him practice at home, with Cooper sitting nearby. On presentation day, Ethan wheeled to the front of the class, Cooper at his side. When Ethan dropped his note cards, Cooper picked them up, earning a laugh from the students. Ethan relaxed, explaining his model with clarity. His classmates clapped, and Ms. Carter gave him an A. David shared the story with Lisa during a check-in call. She wasn't surprised by Cooper's actions. Some dogs have a gift for emotional support, she said. Cooper and Ethan are a perfect match. She suggested nominating them for Paws for Freedom's annual newsletter, and David agreed, proud of Ethan's progress. The newsletter caught the eye of a reporter, Sarah Nguyen, from a Denver news station. She contacted David, asking to interview the family. Ethan was shy about the idea, but David encouraged him. People should hear about you and Cooper, he said. The interview took place at their home, with Cooper lying by Ethan's chair. Ethan spoke honestly. He makes me feel like I can still do stuff, he said. He's my best friend. The segment aired on the 6 p.m. news, titled, Service Dog Brings Hope to Paralyzed Boy. Viewers were touched, sending letters and donations to Paws for Freedom. The organization used the funds to train more dogs, and Lisa invited Ethan to speak at their spring fundraiser. Ethan agreed, bringing Cooper, who charmed the crowd by fetching a dropped program during Ethan's speech. Ethan's confidence grew. He joined an adaptive basketball team, with Cooper cheering from the sidelines. He started building rockets again, teaching Cooper to carry small parts. David watched, amazed at his son's resilience. Cooper gave Ethan a sense of freedom, letting him tackle challenges without feeling defined by his chair. David found relief, too. He'd carried the weight of Ethan's injury alone, but Cooper shared the load. On tough days, when David doubted himself as a father, Cooper's steady presence reminded him they were a team. David started sleeping better, his worry easing as Ethan's laughter filled the house again. Cooper's actions weren't limited to that one evening. He continued to sense Ethan's struggles, from pain flare-ups to moments of doubt. When Ethan cried after a hard therapy session, Cooper curled up beside him, offering silent comfort. When Ethan aced a math test, Cooper seemed to celebrate, wagging his tail furiously. The tears that night in the living room were about more than sadness. They were about healing, trust, and a dog who saw Ethan's worth when he couldn't. David often found Ethan and Cooper asleep together, the dog's head resting on Ethan's lap, a bond stronger than words. 9 months later, Ethan wrote a thank you letter to Paws for Freedom for a school assignment. Cooper's more than a dog, he wrote. He showed me I'm still Ethan, not just a kid in a chair. David framed the letter, hanging it above the fireplace. It was a reminder of the day Cooper became family and the moment hope returned to their lives. The story of Ethan and Cooper spread beyond Denver, shared by teachers, neighbors, and strangers who saw the news. It wasn't about a miracle, but about a dog's unwavering loyalty and a father's love that brought him into their lives. Cooper's act that evening left David and Ethan in tears, but they were tears of gratitude for a future filled with possibility, thanks to a golden retriever who refused to let Ethan give up.